why did he get it? I'd probably be a millionaire if I could figure it all out.
Susan Berry's son, TJ, was a dream child, and it started literally day one. No labor pains. As a baby, he ate everything. There were no terrible twos. TJ was a straight-A student, neat, organized, motivated, an athlete, didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't even swear.
When did you first notice that there was any kind of an issue?
Going into high school. It was going into high school. And I wish I know what happened, if something was said to him or if it was just, I mean, it started so healthily. I'm small, Mom, I want some muscles, you know, I'm puny and it's better gonna help me in sports. So he started out lifting weights for an hour. And then it was 2 hours. And then it was 4 hours at the gym, and I'd go over to the gym. Why are you still here? What are you doing?
But it was the day TJ had his whole soccer team over for a pool party that Susan realized something was terribly wrong.
And he took off his shirt, and both my husband and I were like, oh my gosh, he looked so thin. But he had all layers of clothing on all the time, so we really couldn't tell. And when he took his shirt off, when he came in, I said, TJ, how much weight have you lost? And he just was like, Mom, we're doing 2-a-days at soccer, which is 2 practices a day, you know. And he said, I can't help it, man. You know, they're running us ragged.
Unsure, Susan took him to the doctor the very same week.
She goes, I don't want him walking, I don't want him cutting lawns, I want him all of his sports teams. And, you know, I'm like, what?
TJ had an eating disorder. The doctor diagnosed him with anorexia nervosa, and that was the beginning of what Susan calls a 9-year nightmare. Doctors and dietitians, therapists, tough love, trickery, it all followed from that week on and all throughout high school. TJ's ideal weight at 5'5", at minimum 110 pounds.
4 years, he never weighed a pound less, because then he couldn't play any of the sports. And God forbid he ever gained a pound beyond that. So he micromanaged that number on that scale for 4 years.
A typical meal for TJ consisted of celery, 0-fat cottage cheese, 0-fat bread, 0-fat butter spray, carrots, and egg whites. He chewed gum consistently to burn calories and stood as often as possible for the very same reason.
He didn't want to be skinny. He wanted to have muscles. He wanted to have a six-pack, like the Health magazine covers that he had about 100 of them under his bed. He wanted to be quicker and faster and stronger and look good.
But no good came from this illness, and nothing and no one could help him. A short time later, not only was TJ's body changing, but the illness was making Susan's once angel child lie right to her face.
So not only are you battling the disease, you're battling the patient who's trying to lie and hide. And
you almost wished it could have been a cancer.
I do.
Why?
I wish it could have been anything but an eating disorder. It's the only illness that the patient does not want to get well.
Yeah. Boy, is that heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
Siobhan, there's more to this story. It continues, Siobhan.
Yeah, coming up tonight on 6 News at 11. It only gets worse from this point on. As soon as TJ turned 18, Susan lost all control over him. So she couldn't force him to go to the doctor. She couldn't force him to go to the dietitians, to see the therapist. He said, sorry.
Sorry.
And that's exactly what the illness wanted. He wanted to be on his own, you know?
Yeah.
And the last line you heard where she said, you know, I asked her, I said, you almost wish this could have been cancer. And she said, I wish it could have been anything but an eating disorder. And that's
hard to get your mind around. It's very difficult to get your mind around.
But it's so difficult to get yourself out of that.
Right. Well, and my mom passed away from breast cancer when I was 16. And so that line, I was like, yeah, but I get it. Yeah, you know, I get it. You know, we went through, she went through radiation and chemotherapy, but for him, but you know, it was out of our hands. It was like, come on, let's hope this works, and if it doesn't, it's out of our hands. But the cure is in the kitchen. Why won't they just eat? You know?
Yeah, big question mark. Psychological issue for sure.
Right, absolutely. Lots more coming up tonight on 6 News at 11.
Thank you.
Our special Friends for Life series focusing on men's health continues tonight. When you hear the word anorexia, you probably think teenage girl or young woman. But for 9 years, the eating disorder controlled an Okemos boy's life. In part 2 of 9-Year Nightmare, our Siobhan Klepfer explains why things only got worse when TJ Warshevsky turned 18 years old. And tonight, we're taking a very stark look at the realities of what he went through. And we want you to know that it could be tough to see, but it's very important to know how this terrible illness affects people.
4 years of high school, 4 years of college, a semester at dental school, not one person called me. Not one teacher, not one coach, not one therapist, not one friend. No one called me. Why didn't someone call me? To look at the way he looked, and they said, he's an adult. We can't call you up. He's an adult.
The moment TJ Warshevsky turned 18, the fight to beat his anorexia turned into a fight to save his life.
TJ walked in to the doctor, peace out. You know, he doesn't have to tell him what he weighs. He doesn't have to go. You know, yeah, I can't find out what he weighs. Nobody will talk to you as a parent because he's 18.
After TJ's first term at Albion College, Susan had had enough. He was 5'5" and down to 85 pounds. Knowing how important college was to TJ, she refused to continue paying for it until he went to a residential treatment program in Wisconsin. After 2 months, TJ gained 20 pounds and said all the right things in order to go home. That's what this illness does. He did go home. He shouldn't have. And it didn't take long before TJ was losing weight again. His body, his mind, and his effort was fading away. 2 more stays at the treatment center failed. Even a car accident and a short hospital stay wasn't enough to scare him into eating. Nothing and no one could help him. Near the end, TJ wouldn't consume any calories, nor fat, nor sugar. His body was shutting down. And soon, this once active athlete doing 1,000 sit-ups a day, spending 4 hours at the gym, hours playing sports, taking a full load of classes, he got so weak and so frail that walking up the stairs, carrying a platter of food, was just too much. And after a semester at dental school, Susan got the phone call she'd been fearing for years.
I started screaming, and then my sisters said, no, no, no. She knew right away. And everybody started screaming and crying, and I tried to his last breath to get vitamins in him, but it was too late. He didn't make it. His heart just had enough. He couldn't survive it anymore.
TJ died doing sit-ups. He was just 22 years old. It was Valentine's night.
When they called me and said, you might want to come and see if you want an open casket, you know, when I went to hug him, they had stuffed his suit with newspapers. You know, so he crinkled, and it was awful.
This is a really tough story to see. I know that TJ's mom is really working to help other people so they don't have to go through the same thing that her son did. I knew TJ when he was in high school, so it's really hard to see.
Yeah, it took her a while, but she wrote a book. It's called Dying to Be Perfect. It's available on Amazon right now, and she just hopes this book will help other people who may have a loved one battling an eating disorder, man or woman, girl or boy. So you can pick this up, and everything that I just told you in part 1 and part 2 and much, much more is inside here. So
very good. Now, what can people do to help other people who are going through this same thing?
Yeah, well, learning the warning signs and getting professional treatment right away. Now, I spoke to a psychologist at Michigan State University, Kelly Klump, who specializes in treatment and research of eating disorders, and this is what she had to say.
Eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any psychiatric disorder. You know, unfortunately, the longer an eating disorder, and in particular anorexia nervosa, goes on, the harder it is to get out of it. So we know that once somebody starts dieting and starving themselves and exercising excessively, something kicks in neurobiologically in the brain that makes it incredibly hard to get out of that pattern.
If you can compare it to a schizophrenic person or a bipolar person, if you say just be the good side of your personality, not the bad side, or just be the happy side, not the sad side, that is ridiculous, and people understand that that's ridiculous. So to say eat to somebody who's anorexic is just as ridiculous. But people don't understand that.
She makes some very, very valid points.
Absolutely, yeah. And for more information on eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, for a link to Susan's book on Amazon, we have all of that under the Scene on 6 section of our website, WLNS.com. But that was really Susan's big message is this is an illness. You know, a lot of people, my son or daughter has cancer. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. My son or daughter has an eating disorder. Oh, people just don't understand, but it is an illness. So.
Well, your story's been very, very educational, and we know that will definitely help some other families. Thank you.
And so does Susan.
All
Sure,
right.
thanks.
Thank you.